morning and welcome. The hymn we are about to sing was released by Billy Taylor in 1963 and became one of the anthems of the civil rights movement. As we join in singing, let us hold with respect the context of the song and the breadth of experience that is called up when we sing about what it means to be free, particularly bringing into our hearts those who are currently incarcerated in Michigan's prisons and jails. Would you please rise in body or spirit as we join together in singing hymn number 151, I Wish I Knew How. Hymn number 151. I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could break all these chains holding me. I wish I could say all the things I could say. Say 'em loud, say 'em clear, for the world to hear. Say 'em loud, say 'em clear, for the whole world to hear. I wish I could share all the love in my heart. Remove all the bars that still keep us apart. I wish you could know what it means to be me. Then you'd see and agree everyone should be free. Then you'd see and agree everyone should be free. I wish I could give all I'm longing to give. I wish I could live like I'm longing to live. I wish I could do all the things I can do. Though I'm way overdue, it means starting anew. Though I'm way overdue, I'd be starting anew. I wish I could be like a bird in the sky. How sweet it would be if I found I could fly. I'd soar to the sun and look down at the sea. Then I'd sing 'cause I know how it feels to be free. Then I'd sing 'cause I know how it feels to be free.
Good morning and welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Ann Arbor, Michigan. Whether you are here in person with us at this very moment in our sanctuary, live streaming right now from home or elsewhere, or watching on demand at a later time this week, we are delighted that you're here, that you've been chosen to be together with this people, this community, in the spirit of renewal and reflection. Our congregation has been meeting continuously right here in the city of Ann Arbor, week after week since 1865, a voice of progressive spirituality, liberal religion, ethics, and human living, inspiring us to be the very best that we can be in our own lives and our own calling, as well as together as community, striving to build a beloved world. I'm the Reverend Manish Mishra-Marzetti, serving our congregation as senior minister, and in today's service are Stella Anderson, our Director of Spiritual Growth and Development, Carter Smith, our acting director of music ministries, Allison Halerz, our pianist-in-residence, Mike Halerz, our technological consultant, Eli Krantz, a member of our lay worship leaders program, Priscilla Tate, Mary Lynn Stevens, and Kathy Friedrichs, lay members of our congregation, will also be joining us in today's service. And I'm very delighted to introduce to our community, to each of you, my dear friend and colleague, Reverend Allison Farnum. We have known each other since the days we served in Florida together. Reverend Allison now is director of the Unitarian Universalist Prison Ministry of Illinois and has been with us this weekend helping our lay leaders and community think about the needs of transformative justice, of restorative justice, and will be a part of our service this morning in that spirit, leading us in deeper reflection on those themes. If you are a newcomer to our community, if you're here in person with us and it is still your early days of getting to know who we are, we invite you to join us immediately after the service ends. As you exit the double doors, the second room to your right is known as the Jackson Chapel, and there will be members of our staff and or folks from our community there who will be available to answer your questions about Unitarian Universalism more broadly or our congregation specifically. If you're live streaming and you are still getting to know us, you're new to our community, first, thank you for joining us. We're delighted to have you with us. Please take a second to introduce yourself in the chat. You can perhaps share your name and where you're joining us from. I know that there will be other members of our community who will be eager to greet you and welcome you. If you're watching on demand later this week, please take a moment to fill out our newcomers survey, which is on the congregation's website, UUAA.org. In addition, if you have any questions as you're getting to know us, please don't hesitate to reach out to any member of the staff team, myself included. We'd be delighted to answer your questions and help orient you to our community. In addition, our coordinator of Welcoming Ministries, Hannah Hotchkiss, would be delighted to hear from you. This Sunday, as we move into deeper reflection on the topic of transformative justice, the needs for such, and what that means for all of us, we also take a moment to hold in our hearts and honor that for those for whom the Jewish tradition is dear, today is the beginning of the High Holy Days, the beginning of Rosh Hashanah, a time of introspection and personal reflection on who we have been in the year that has preceded and what amends or doing right by others might be needed in our relationships and in our who we have been and how we have moved in the past year. In that spirit of thinking of reparation, contrition, making amends, we also tie in very much our overall theme this Sunday of a justice that is transformed by love in genuine service to all. In the week ahead, if you are not already aware, our community will be offering a seminar called Topics in Civil Rights, personally led by me. And the first session of this seminar is Wednesday night. If this might potentially be of interest to you, this offering, we invite you to go to the congregational website, and under events, there's more information about this seminar as well as links that will help you register if you are interested. I now invite you to find a place of centering and grounding in your hearts as we move more deeply into our time together this morning.
This morning, as we call ourselves into worship, we all participate. And so when I say, no one is outside the circle of love, I'll raise my hands like this, and you get to say it with me. You want to try it? Okay. Ready? You can do it, even if you're coloring. Ready? No one is outside the circle of love. Now just watch out for your neighbors. We know that hurt moves through the world, perpetrated by action, inaction, and indifference. Our values call us to live in the reality of heartbreak in our world, remembering that No one is outside the circle of love. We who are Unitarian Universalist not only affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person, we also affirm the inherent wholeness of every being, despite apparent brokenness. No one is outside the circle of love. We know that things break or break down. Promises, friendship, sobriety, hope, communication. This breaking happens because our human hearts and our very institutions are frail and imperfect. We make mistakes. Life is messy. No one is outside the circle of love. With compassion as our guide, we seek the well-being of all people. We seek to dismantle systems of oppression that undermine our collective humanity. We believe that we're here to guide one another toward love. No one is outside the circle of love. No matter how fractured we are or once were, we can make whole people of ourselves. We are whole at our core because of a great, unnamable, and sometimes inconceivable love in which we live. No one is outside the circle of love. Blessed be.
Good morning. I'm Eli Kranz, a member of our congregation's lay worship leaders program. My pronouns are he, him, his, or they, them, theirs. It is our duty as Unitarian Universalists to cultivate radical welcome, and I am honored to be welcome into our chancel this Sunday to lead our congregation in the lighting of our chalice, a symbol for Unitarian Universalists across the globe of our commitments to each other and the planet. This Sunday, Priscilla Tate and Mary Lynn Stevens will join us in physically lighting our community's chalice. Would you both join me up here on the chancel, please? As we light our chalice in the sanctuary this morning, we invite our online community members to light your own chalice at home. As you do so, you may choose to share in the chat. The chalice is lit in, and please give us your location, either the city or just saying, it's lit in my living room. In the spirit of community and in welcome, let us now join together in these familiar words as our chalice is lit. We light this chalice for the light of truth. We light this chalice for the warmth of love. We light this chalice for the energy of action. We light this chalice for the harmony of peace. Thank you, Priscilla and Mary Lynn. Another way we are reminded of our commitment to radical welcoming with the spirit of joy and affirmation are the words of our community's covenant. Please join me as we say the words of our covenant together. The spirit of this church is love, and service is its law. This is our covenant with each other, to dwell together in peace, to search for truth in love, and to help one another. Thank you.
Good morning. No one is shielded from the deep structural inequities embedded in our criminal justice system. The children of incarcerated parents suffer beyond measure, and the negative impacts of their trauma will follow many of them throughout their lives. Educator, organizer, and author Mariame Kaba has been on the front lines, working to end the criminalization of marginalized communities, especially for youth. Her mission is to end the cycle of violence, addiction, and incarceration that is tearing apart families and entire communities. Our Time for All Ages this morning reveals to us just what the stakes are for these tragically invisible kids. They need compassion, support, and love. See You Soon by Mariame Kaba, illustrated by Bianca Diaz. Queenie is what they call me, but Raina is my name. I am 6 years old, and my life's about to change. My mama, she's been sick since I was very small. Sometimes she goes away when she isn't feeling well at all. A girl at school named Keisha sometimes says mean things to me. Your mama, she takes drugs. Your mama is a junkie. Keisha's words sting my heart and leave me feeling sad. Don't pay her any mind, says Grandma Louise. Your mama, she's sick, and that doesn't mean she's bad. When Mama isn't sick, we are two peas in a pod. We shop at the grocery store, roam aisles even and odd. We share ice cream sundaes and play games at the park. We wash clothes at the laundromat and watch the fireflies in the dark. Today, we're riding on a train, Grandma, Mama, and me. We'll board the bus to the county jail once we get out of the city. Grandma is reading the Bible. Mama's looking out the window. No one is speaking, not one word. We don't have much farther to go. I have so many questions. I'd ask, but I'm afraid. I push my fingers through my mama's, weaving them tight like a braid. Standing tall in front of the jail, I breathe in and find the strength. I ask Mama, where will you sleep? She looks like her heart will break. Can I see your room? I ask. Mama's eyes are bright with tears. No, baby girl, no one is allowed. She speaks, but I don't hear. I wonder what Mama's cell looks like. Will it be cold inside? Are there warm blankets for her? My heart is pounding. I want to run and hide. I look into Mama's eyes. I don't want to see her cry. I don't want Mama to go to jail. She should always be by my side. Who will help me braid my hair? Who will I ask about homework? Mama makes it fun to learn. My chest begins to hurt. Mama opens her arms and wraps me up. She hugs me so, so tight. You be good. Take care of Grandma. Baby girl, I'll be all right. So many questions are swirling in my head. I have time for just one more. When will I see you again, Mama? Soon, Queenie, soon, she says to me. Time will fly. Don't you worry, my Queenie. Grandma Louise takes my hand, and we walk to the door. 2 years is not soon, I yell. So mad, my face turns red. Grandma gives me a look, and I say, sorry, and hang my head. I don't want to leave my Mama. She'll be in there all alone. But Grandma says it's time to go. We've got to catch the bus and train home. Mama kisses my cheek wet with tears. She turns and walks through the gate. I want to beg her not to go, to stay with us. Grandma and I are quiet as we ride home. When we arrive, I run into my room, just wanting to be alone. But there's a brand new quilt on my bed. It has photos of Mama and me, opening presents at Christmas, eating birthday cake, Mama holding me when I was a baby. I throw myself on the bed and wrap myself in memories. I fall asleep dreaming of my Mama, her voice saying, "Sweet dreams, Queenie." The next day at school, my mind is wandering. The teacher calls on me, but I don't hear. Is Mama lonely without me? Is she doing okay? My heart is heavy with worry and fear. 2 long weeks go by, and then one day when school is done, I find a letter on my bed. It's my Mama's handwriting, shining bright like the sun. The letter reads, "To my baby girl, Queenie, from Mama." I open it slowly, gently. I sit down on my bed to read it, and my heart fills with peace. Dear baby girl, this is your Mama, and I love you. I loved you before I even met you. I love you still, and I always will. Even though I'm away, my love is always here to stay. See you soon, Queenie. Love, Mama. Grandma comes into my room. She has a grilled cheese sandwich for me to eat. She says, "Do you want to visit your Mama next Saturday?" I jump up and down and shout, "Yes, yes, yes!" I rain down kisses all over Grandma's face. When bedtime comes, I hold the letter as darkness fills my room. I fall asleep hearing my Mama's voice. See you soon, Queenie. See you soon. Now is the time in our service when we sing our precious children to their programs. I invite all of our young people to follow me and their teachers, who have their signs now for their grade levels, out of the sanctuary as the congregation sings with love and tenderness.
Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine.
Such a beautiful prayer in that song, a wish, that hope of that greater unity of being held in the spirit of love, even when we're not near one another physically. It's in that spirit of greater community, of bringing love alive in the larger world, that once a month we hear from leaders in our local community, from our own congregation, about the important social justice work that we're doing in partnership with other organizations to build the beloved community that we need here in Washtenaw County and beyond. In that spirit, I'd like to invite into the pulpit Priscilla Tate and Marilyn Stevens, who will be sharing with us today more information about our work, our community's work in the field of restorative justice. Would you please join us?
Good morning, I'm Priscilla Tate.
Hi, and I'm Mary Lynn Stevens, and we're so happy to be able to share with you just very briefly and in very broad strokes a little bit about restorative justice and the UUAA restorative justice group that we're part of. A couple of years ago, about a dozen congregants came together, really inspired by the principles and the promise of something known as restorative justice. I know that some of you are quite familiar with this and others are not. I had someone in the break ask me, what is it? So we cover a gamut. So in very broad strokes, if you're not familiar with the term, restorative justice is actually an alternative way of thinking about harm and crime, about harm that has been done and then how you respond to that harm. Most formally, it's done in the criminal justice system, but of course, it exists in a number of other settings. But here's the contrast, here's the alternative. In the traditional justice system, crime is considered an offense against the state. You break a law, the state deals with you. It assesses your guilt, it punishes you, and essentially it's done at that point. That done part is often punishment, often incarceration, which almost never accomplishes what it intends to. And just one example of what you saw in the story creates cascades of collateral harm, sometimes generations of it. So restorative justice, on the other hand, really centers people. It treats it as crime against people, harm against people. So if you were the survivor of a crime and you were somewhere where restorative justice was offered and you decided, yes, I would like to take that path, what would happen is, excuse me, the process would elicit your unique needs out of that experience and make every effort to have them met. And if you were responsible for the crime, it would hold you deeply and genuinely accountable. You would learn to understand the impact of your actions, and you would be helped to find ways, sometimes very difficult ways, to make things right. And finally, through all of that, restorative justice prioritizes healing and transformation for everyone involved. You may know that many indigenous peoples have been doing this for centuries. And you may also know that here in Washtenaw County, restorative justice is being used some on a limited basis in some of the courts, in several schools, and pretty actively through the County Dispute Resolution Center. And in fact, part of the work of our UU Restorative Justice Group really is advocacy to increase the use of restorative justice in the system. A few of us are, not me, I wish I were, are highly trained volunteers who facilitate the circles and conferences that are really at the heart of the process. And in the last year or so, partly just responding to the needs that we've seen and from the work that we've done, we've also broadened our work a little bit under kind of a larger spirit of restorative justice, if you will, umbrella. And we have two big goals there. One is to promote justice and healing for people who have been harmed by the current justice system. And secondly, to work for transformation of institutions that perpetuate harm, and especially to marginalized communities, the people from those communities and in them. So I'm going to turn this over to Priscilla, who's going to talk a little bit about what that work is and what it means and how you might learn more if you're interested.
Thanks, Mary Lynn. I just want to segue from what Mary Lynn has talked about and focus on what our group has been doing and is planning on doing in the near future. First, we've built relationships with a number of community partners. For example, the American Friends Service Committee, Friends of Restorative Justice, the Michigan Department of Corrections Offender Success Program, A Brighter Way, which is a nonprofit in Ypsilanti that serves folks who have been incarcerated and are reentering in Washington County, and the Dispute Resolution Center, of course. We're also working to create a prison ministry, beginning with an emphasis on a reentry program for women who are coming out of the women's prison. It's Women's Huron Valley Correctional Facility. It's here in Ypsilanti, and it's Michigan's only women's prison. There are 18 men's prisons. So the services for women there are fewer services for women. And actually, it is that work that inspired us to find Allison, Reverend Allison Farnum, and invite her here. Last year, we wrote a grant to the National Association of Community Restorative Justice and received enough money to recruit and train 9 formerly incarcerated people, community members, to become trained as restorative justice facilitators within the Dispute Resolution Center. That helped to increase the diversity of the volunteer workforce, which was not very diverse. Also here in our congregation, we've sponsored several films and book discussions, and we're planning more of those, actively planning more, as well as a panel presentation from formerly incarcerated folks that we're in relationship with. This work is an opportunity to put faith into action at any level of interest that you may have, any level of ability, time, or energy. So thank you, and we hope to see you at the social hall. We have a booth in the social hall. We'll be there to answer questions, and we have a robust list of activities, both short-term and long-term commitments. So stop by and ask more questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Lynn and Priscilla, for sharing about the important work being done by UUAA's Restorative Justice Group. It's wonderful to hear how those in our congregation are working hard to make our community and the wider world a better place for all people. One way we are able to support the important work being done by this congregation is through the spiritual practice of our offering. Bearing witness to the generosity of those gathered here in person and virtually is a powerful thing and demonstrates our commitment to building a brighter future. There are many ways to give to support the work of our congregation. As the baskets are passed, we invite you to drop in cash or checks. If you prefer a digital option, you can text UUAA to 73256 or visit uuaa.org/giving and select weekly offering for the fund. However you give, thank you for your generosity and your commitment to making our congregation and community a better place for all people. I would now invite the ushers forward as we gratefully receive today's offering. Thank you. And now I invite you to rise in body or spirit as the ushers come forward and we dedicate our offering. Would you please join with me in saying, "To the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings." Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Kathy Friedrichs. I've written a poem, Prison Circle. It's dedicated to the women of Huron Valley Correctional Facility. A circle of 25 women, brown, black, white, native, tattooed, shaved heads, ball caps, faces hidden, hardened, longing for release from these barbed wired walls. I'm here to listen, bear witness to their stories. Each has hurt someone, been cast out, afraid of a world they no longer recognize, yet yearn to return to. With shaking hands, Mary tells of her husband's relentless abuse. She snapped, ended the torment forever. Meredith drove drunk, chronically, recklessly, lethally. Joan, complicit in a robbery, a woman killed, she drove the car. They talk about growing up in poverty, homeless, battered, drug abuse engulfing them from parents and friends. My throat constricts, so much pain, so hard to hold. To be released, the women must convince themselves, convince the probationary powers that they're ready to make different choices, a life they may have never known, a life free of drugs, alcohol, violence. So they sit with their adopted sisters, working to become someone who can own the harm they caused, accept the harm done to them, a world of lost family and friends, a world of invisible walls.
Will you join me in the spirit of meditation? Spirit of life and love, we feel the heaviness, heartbreak of all that challenges us and pains us, whether it be in the individual turns of events in our hearts, the pain we inflict on ourselves, on others, the pain we know as individuals or as a society. It hurts so much to sit in this place. May the spirit of courage and fortitude be with us as we breathe together. And may the spirit of love invite us forward, onward, thinking of those who celebrate the new year in this time of fall, a new year filled perhaps with the blessings of sweetness, apples and honey to sweeten the year ahead. O Spirit of possibility, could it be true that even as we sit with the heartbreak and the pain and the challenges of our lives and in our world, fill us with the sweet breath of possibility. Move in and through us and empower us to move forward together. acknowledging, not trying to stuff down the fear and the pain, but to sit with and allow ourselves to weave our hearts together into a fabric of love that holds us, that contains us, and allows us to move into a new time together. A time of reckoning, yes, and also a time of greater love, where we might feel that network of hands and hearts that is greater than the sum of its parts, the power that can infuse all of us, that sustaining, transforming reality that is with us, that reminds us no one is outside the circle of love. And that whatever we come with here today in this space, joys, sorrows, milestones, that we are creating sacred space together that will continue to sustain this community through the heartbreak, yes, but reminding us always of the possibility of a new day, the possibility of new love forming in our hearts and in our minds as we put faith to action. Bless you, and blessed be. Amen.
I invite you to turn to number 155 as we join together in singing Circle Round for Freedom. Number 155.
I share a reading with you, with permission and great blessings, wishing he could be with us, the poet, my friend, Lonnie Smith. Ghost. With all these years in prison, I believe I've come to feel what a ghost feels. Forced to be spectators in a world where we've been long forgotten, neither here nor there, as life goes on around us. Some have forgotten that they were ever a part of that world. They go around hating the world and the people in it. Others remember too well. They long to be a part of that world again. They long to be heard, to be seen, to be relevant. Every once in a while, for however brief it may be, someone sees them, really sees them, not for what they're told to see, a ghost, but for what lies beneath. And for those who haven't and do not want to forget, who still cherish and hang on to their humanity, it means the world to them. So yes, behind these four walls, I've most definitely come to feel what a ghost must feel. Your friendly ghost. I want to thank you for the gift of being with you today. What a beautiful presence your congregation has. Thank you. I'd like to share with you about my friend. This is Lonnie. Lonnie Smith and I, when we talk, we have the best time. We talk about Unitarian Universalism. We talk about the food that we like to cook, what we would cook together if we could. We talk about theology, good theology, bad theology. One of the first things that brought us together was my having sent to him what we shared this morning. Do you remember? No one is outside the circle of love. We talked about what a beautiful theology that was. And then as soon as we just really get cooking in our conversation, we have to stop the call. We can only talk for 20 minutes at a time. Lonnie's been incarcerated for over 30 years. He's at Stateville Prison in Joliet. We always feel so disappointed when the call has to end. 20 minutes, it goes by faster than you think. This is part of Stateville. It's been toured as an architectural marvel. I don't see it that way. I see it as a structure that was made for torture of the mind, the body, and the spirit. This is the Panopticon, the E-House, I believe it's called. It was condemned in 2008 because of black mold and structural problems, and it was reopened during COVID to house people who are sick with COVID incarcerated at Stateville. Whew. But here's something positive. There's people like Lonnie at Stateville. Here he is preaching. He recently graduated from North Park Seminary, a seminary that has a restorative arts program that's for people inside and outside. And here he is sharing his skills, preaching, telling the people in his class to put on the armor of God. I like to think of it as that we continue to put on and clothe ourselves with the spirit of love even when life is most challenging, which it certainly is for his comrades receiving that sermon that day. Another picture that brings joy to my heart is when we attended his graduation. Lonnie is surrounded by myself and 2 Unitarian Universalists from the Hinsdale, Illinois congregation, Tracy and Marion, who have been longtime friends with Lonnie through our Pen Pal program. It was a beautiful day. What felt so strange about it, and what happens with the dissonance that still bothers me so, is that it was a commencement. And I kept wondering, as someone coming from the outside, what was commencing for those who were graduating, who were still going to be in prison. My greatest wish had been that once they graduated, it was time to go, to get out, to be free. And yet these people continue to find their way to keep their minds right, which is so hard, and understand that they are still commencing. They're commencing and moving forward, bringing love wherever they go, which is much needed at Stateville Prison. And when Marion and Tracy and I left through all those walls, corridors, steel doors, bars, and barbed wire, this is what we got to take of Lonnie home with us. His robe, his cap, his gown, his master's hood, his tassel, and that wonderful emblem coin from North Park. It is in safekeeping at Tracy's home. We pray and wish, and please send your prayers and energy, that it might animate the hand of whoever will be governor of Illinois come November after the elections, that they would put their signature on Lonnie's executive clemency petition for his release and his freedom. May it be so for the hundreds of petitions that are awaiting his signature on that desk. The late white minister A. Powell Davies wrote, "Here we are, all of us, all upon this planet, bound together in a common destiny, living our lives between the briefness of daylight and dark. Kindred in this, each lighted by the same precious, precarious, flickering flame of life. How does it happen that we are not kindred in all things else? How strange and foolish are these walls of separation that divide us? How strange and foolish indeed." And here's an invitation, is to think about who is us, who is we. Every time I have the opportunity to be in the pulpit, in person, in Zoom, it is without fail an opportunity for me to connect with a Unitarian Universalist who has been deeply impacted by carceral systems, by what I call the criminal punishment system. Either in my email inbox when I come home on Monday, I check it, and I'm hearing from someone who says, "Thank you. Thank you for naming that we are out there." To deeply understand that so many of us think of it, perhaps you didn't think of it, that there is a loved one or in your family who had a brush with the law, or someone who is struggling with a substance abuse disorder, who's been in and out of different carceral systems. We are all touched. And that when we share the story from this morning, to understand how deeply it affects the generations ahead of us. It is my experience that those who are deeply affected by carceral systems are us. And for those of you out there, please know you are not alone. There are others who are Unitarian Universalists who care about your experience and have some idea of that experience. Maybe not the same experience, but some idea. That's why I appreciate so much the work that I get to do in the Prison Ministry of Illinois, where we work to equip Unitarian Universalists to help transform institutions and support people harmed by the prison industrial complex. It is a gift, and I know it may sound odd, but it is a joy to be able to tap into that strong power of love, to encounter so many people who are active in developing relationships with people who've been previously incarcerated, and also lifting up and being guided and led by people with the direct experience of incarceration. It is a beautiful thing. We have a presence inside Cook County Jail on the men's and women's side. We get to facilitate circles for grounding and meditation. We also will begin to have a presence again at the Logan Women's Prison in Lincoln, Illinois. And we provide ongoing support for the people who do that ministry, as well as inviting advocacy, because who wouldn't want to advocate? Who wouldn't want to? When we go inside, we have an obligation to listen and be guided by what those folks inside are telling us needs to be done on the outside. And so the education we offer is ongoing. We have a pen pal program that forms new relationships. You saw a picture of a couple pen pals there. And we also have a program that allows people, Unitarian Universalists, to form circles to welcome people who are newly released from prison. All of it, my dear ones, all of it enlivens, I feel, the best of Unitarian Universalism that honors our experience of relationships, of connecting, of rendering one another more human in each other's eyes and hearts and minds and being. The author, Brian Stevenson, talks about the power of proximity and how important that has been in reshaping my ideas of when we often talk about beloved community. That reminder that we truly do belong to each other, and that we have the invitation to this transformative work of being accountable to one another. Monica Cosby is someone who served in leadership in our organization in the steering committee, also a former Solidarity Circle leader. She herself experienced incarceration for over 25 years. And here she is doing what she does, leading, rallying, raising energy and good vibes outside of the Cook County Jail on Mother's Day, honoring all the women who are incarcerated in Cook County Jail that day. She has deep experiences of community, and she never fails to mention that there are deep and powerful connections and organization going on inside prisons. That inside prisons, prisoners are finding ways to minister to one another, to advocate for themselves, to organize for themselves in prison efforts, and then inviting us on the outside to support that work. And that they undergo their own transformative processes in circles together in ways that are never supported by the actual prison. That they facilitate their own healing and connection, and that literally has saved her life. And she says this: within community, there's a shared responsibility and accountability, caring and connection. It's understood that the health, happiness, success, security, and stability of the community is directly connected to the individuals within it. In community, support is given where needed. Solidarity is lived, not just a word spoken. I think it's one thing to talk about solidarity, and it's another thing to try to live it. This is an image of one of the Solidarity Circles, one of those circles of Unitarian Universalists who welcome someone newly released at the Unitarian Church of Evanston. It's a group of people that's still meeting, bless them all. They met over Zoom during such a difficult time during the pandemic, and still continue to meet on Zoom, monthly check-ins together as a circle. And nobody said it was easy to try to embody solidarity. It can be challenging and messy. And yet we know that it is important to organize ourselves in this way, to show up in each other's lives. The social geographer Ruth Wilson Gilmore, she often talks about abolition not as just the absence of police in prisons, but that prison abolition and this abolitionist vision is really about presence. She speaks about how the state has organized abandonment. And we see that in the criminalization of the poor. We see that in wealth-based incarceration, also known as cash bail. We see that in so many ways of organized abandonment that says you don't matter. And yet we as Unitarian Universalists, I just love that we have this way of showing up and being present and learning about accountability together. That we have the opportunity to form up organized presence in the face of organized abandonment, to organize ourselves and to live into that foundational theology that is invited into our principles, that we understand that every single person has inherent worth and dignity. And at the same time, that's balanced with the sense of the seventh principle, and understanding that we are part of an interconnected web of life. And it is a balancing act that we look at each individual's worth and sense of wholeness and balance that with the whole. It is, in fact, what I see as a theological foundation of what's called transformative justice. In restorative justice, we work and look at creating circles of healing and accountability. And then, and this is, again, broad strokes, transformative justice invites us not only to look at the healing of relationships and repairing that and moving forward, but also of finding a way and asking wondering questions about what was it that allowed this harm to happen in the first place? What are the conditions that just keep perpetuating this ongoing cycles of violence? And so we're invited into taking in a transformative justice approach that is a very big picture. And there's an organization called Generation 5 whose mission was to end childhood sexual abuse. And then says that we need to take a liberatory approach to violence built on the principles of transformative justice, naming that state and systemic responses to violence as they are now, including the criminal legal system, the child welfare system, not only fail to advance individual and collective liberation, but often perpetuate and create more harm. But we are invited into understanding and finding our place in the circle of love. Understanding, as that great educator Bell Hooks reminds us, that the moment we choose to love, we begin to move toward freedom, to act in ways that liberate ourselves and others. And so in this beautiful invitation into transformative justice and into creating circles of accountability and healing, that we are invited into collective liberation together. And I know that my work in this organization of the UU Prison Ministry of Illinois, it's opened me into whole new ways of being invited into the work of the Spirit of Love. And I keep learning more about all the cultural waters that I'm swimming in. And I'm reminded of the power of love from one of our inside pen pals, Akil. He's been incarcerated since 2007 in Illinois. He himself, he was writing an essay as someone, he's a person of faith, he's a Muslim, he's an imam. And he was writing an essay about Father's Day, about his own inner healing around the pain and harm that was caused in his family by his father's incarceration. And he writes this: hurt people hurt people. Fortunately, due to awareness and a spiritual awakening, I realized that reconciling the harm and healing, that which has been broken, had to begin somewhere. Hence, I decided that the healing would begin with me. Beloveds, there are so many beautiful people right now who are incarcerated who have made these decisions to turn towards love again and again, in spite of everything around them that tells them that they have no worth and dignity. And it is a beautiful thing. And so maybe you didn't really want to come here and learn about prison ministry. Maybe you didn't want to hear all of these sad tales, and yet at the same time I'm reminded that there is joy here to be found, and being invited into this work of love and acknowledging that we are held in a circle of love that we did not create. So maybe you didn't come here to learn about prison ministry or restorative justice or transformative justice, but what if you needed to hear that you had a second chance today? What if you messed up and you just needed to hear that you can come through from it, and that there are still people here in this community who believe in you, who know that you are worthy of redemption, that you are worthy of healing, and that people who believe in your wholeness as a human being, who are ready to see you and meet you where you are? What if that's what you needed today? Maybe not even having a second chance, but just a first chance, for goodness sake. That here you can find a place potentially for healing, reconciliation, acknowledging harm, and even spaces for accountability that are messy and uncomfortable and difficult. Those are all pathways of this spirit of love that are supported here, where no one expects you to be perfect, only to commit to learn and grow and to be open to transformation and restoration. Even if it is messy and hard, it's worth it. And so this is an invitation, this is a painting from Akil that I'm sharing with his permission and his blessing, that you can find your place in the circle of love, and that love is indeed a superpower, and that you are firmly held in place in a circle of love that exists outside of fear, outside of illusions of control, that you are here with the wild ones, those seeking freedom, who believe that we are part of an interconnected web, where we weave our struggles together to form a circle of love until everyone might realize that no one is outside of it. Love prevails. It is the radical teaching of our faith, and we have the privilege to live into that teaching. No one is outside the circle of love. Amen. As we acknowledge that finding our place in the circle of love, it can be hard, and finding a way forward together, it can be messy and rough, and yet we can sing together through it. And so I invite you to rise, embody your spirit, lift your hearts in song in singing hymn number 1020 from the Teal hymnal, Woyaya.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know we win, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Woyaya, 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 woyaya. We are going. Heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Woyaya, woyaya, woyaya,
We close with the words from the poet Gwendolyn Brooks. We are each other's harvest. We are each other's business. We are each other's magnitude and bond. Go forth, living into these bonds of love from which no one is outside. Blessed be. Amen.